Thanks for clicking on the video. If you like what you hear, please drop a comment and say hi. It'd help me out a lot.
The sky cracked open before the first scream even finished. Rowan Vale sprinted through the smoke-laced corridors of a collapsing civic centre, her boots thudding against fractured stone as the ceiling above glowed with the sick orange hue of a descending orbital strike. Her voice barked orders through the comms, barely audible over the thunder. "Get the civilians to Sector 8! Use the freight tunnels if the primary is blocked. Move." All around her, panic had taken root. Not chaos, not confusion. Just the brittle silence of people who'd realized no one was coming to save them. The city of Alaris 4, once a neutral cultural hub known for sculpture gardens and floating libraries, now burned beneath coalition bombardment. Entire districts had been vaporized, and the orbital signatures matched what Rowan had seen before: ships with no transponders, no challenge codes. Unacknowledged war crimes. And this time, they hadn't even tried to hide it. She ducked behind an overturned transport skiff, pulling a child beneath her as another shockwave tore through the boulevard. Windows exploded outward in a spray of glass and heat. A fountain at the center of the plaza was now a crater. "Status?" she shouted. Her second-in-command answered with static. "Reinforcements?" she snapped into the line. "Negative. High Command redirected the closest fleet to try us. Alaris is..." The voice faltered. "Not a strategic asset." Rowan's blood froze. "Not a..." The ground shook again as another missile struck 5 blocks north. The skyline, what was left of it, folded inward. Her jaw clenched. She turned to the comm relay technician beside her. "How many evac transports made it out?" "Only 2, he whispered. "Out of 11. She stared at the screen behind him. Civilian heat signatures were flickering out faster than they could count. Hours later, she stood in the ashes of Sector 5. A blackened piece of someone's home drifting down and catching against her armor. The coalition had withdrawn defeated, not driven off, just finished. The city was gone. What remained of the defenders had retreated into caves and rubble. Rowan's hands were burned through the gloves. She didn't notice. Nearby, one of her soldiers sobbed quietly beneath the hull of a ruined scout crawler. Another simply stared into the smoke, mouthing names. Rowan raised her comm. Her voice was flat. "Commander Vale, report complete. Alaris has fallen. Civilian casualties above 90%. No strategic value." She waited. There was no reply, just the faint hum of a dead channel and the quiet sound of fire still burning. The bridge of the Resolute was silent, not from inactivity, but disbelief. The Coalition's broadcast hijacked every major Alliance frequency. It wasn't encrypted. It didn't need to be. It wanted to be seen. Draven stood rigid at the center of the command platform, hands behind her back, eyes locked on the central display. The screen showed Alaris, burning, not live, playback. Aerial views scrolled across blackened streets. Civilian bodies blurred for drama, not mercy. Audio layered in from field recordings, children crying, distorted screams. A single whisper played on loop like a prayer. "You said we were allies." The Coalition seal pulsed at the bottom right of the screen, framed in red, stylized to look mournful. Propaganda perfected. "Captain," Alvarez said quietly from comms, "they're transmitting this to open channels across neutral systems. Civilian feeds, public holos, trade routers." "I know," Draven said, voice low. "They're making us the villains," someone else muttered. "No," Draven corrected, turning slowly, her face a stone mask. "They're making us helpless." The transmission ended with a freeze frame, a young Ilarian girl covered in soot reaching toward the sky, eyes wide, mouth open in a question that would never be answered. Then blackout. Then silence. Draven paced slowly toward the secondary tactical display. The fleet under her command, 3 frigates, 1 carrier and 2 support cruisers, waited in system, armed, primed, told to hold. She pulled up the directive from High Command. Priority shift to Trias defense line. Engagement authorization delayed. Public response pending Strategic Council review. She read it twice. Then again, the words blurred. Not from emotion, from how careful they were. Not "we won't retaliate," just "wait." Just delay. Just pretend the sky isn't on fire. She clenched her fists. "We have a position on the nearest Coalition vessel that hit Alaris." Alvarez hesitated. Confirmed trajectory points to an orbiting strike cruiser, but it's outside direct jurisdiction. Then make it direct. Captain, orders are to hold. Draven didn't raise her voice, and the cost of holding was a city. She looked across the room. I won't let the next one burn just to make someone else's vote cleaner. Back in her private quarters, she sat down, alone. No light, no sound. Just a single encrypted message saved in her outbox. Never sent. A warning, a report, a confession. She hovered her finger over send, paused, then deleted it, and whispered to the dark, "They already know." The chamber was brighter than usual, too clean, too curated. That meant someone was trying to sell a lie. Vera Keel sat motionless at the long conference table, flanked by lesser delegates from allied systems, each murmuring into private comlinks or pretending to study datapads. Her uniform was immaculate, her expression unreadable. Only her eyes gave her away, burning quietly behind a mask of practiced diplomacy. On the table before her, a dossier flickered under locked clearance. Unconfirmed memorandum. Origin, Coalition-aligned species Olzari Syndicate. Content, non-aggression understanding, passive trade allowances, recognition of neutral red zones. Enacted, 3 cycles prior. Unofficial, unacknowledged, and entirely real. The Olzari had been a minor player, no one thought much of them, until the Coalition began sparing their border planets, until they stopped speaking in council, until Alaris burned, and Olzari ships just watched. Vera stood, the whisper of her chair against the polished floor slicing through the hum of quiet voices. "I'm invoking Protocol 21. Heads turned, eyes narrowed. Councillor Velen of the Karai shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "That protocol is reserved for acts of betrayal," he said. "Then it applies," Vera replied. She tapped the console. The unconfirmed file blinked to life mid-air. "We have proof of covert arrangements with coalition entities, recognition of neutral sacrifice zones, passive approval of silence-based compliance." Tolves of the Hilari Compact tilted her head. "You can't prove those signatures are authentic." "No," Vera said calmly, "because they've already been scrubbed." The silence that followed said everything. They knew, they all knew, and no one would speak it. Back in her private office, Vera stood before the viewing pane, watching trade ships slip silently between stars. No alerts, no fanfare, just the day continuing like nothing had happened. Her aide entered quietly. "We traced the leak of your earlier coalition footage to a private server on Thes Prime. It was filtered, spun to paint the Alliance as the aggressor." "By who?" The aide hesitated. "It originated from someone on your clearance level." Vera didn't react. Not outwardly, instead she turned to her desk. She lifted the sealed file from earlier and placed it into a new channel. No ID, no claim, just data. She hit send, then whispered, "Let the galaxy see what silence looks like." The next morning, her position was formally challenged by a coalition of junior ambassadors. Their charge? Undermining diplomatic stability. The world of Valcor never had time to scream. Coalition forces had set up a forward base on the dark side of the moon, shielded beneath aurora-charged storms and seismic distortion. It was a smart location, impossible to scan without boots on the ground. That's why Draven brought fire, and Rowan brought knives. Above the surface, the Resolute and its strike fleet emerged from hyperspace, flanking a shattered magnetic belt with aggressive precision. Draven stood at the helm, issuing orders without raising her voice. Her coat moved like part of the ship, every motion exact, every second measured. Launch squads 3 and 4 use the asteroid drift for entry. Do not let them dig in. Below, in the gut of a dropship streaking toward the surface, Rowan loaded a fresh magazine into her rifle. She didn't speak, didn't blink. Her face was painted with ash and focus, her helmet clipped at her side. A young soldier beside her whispered, "Are we hitting a command post?" Rowan finally looked at him. "We're hitting what they use when they think no one's looking." The first wave landed hard, coordinated, messy, perfect. Coalition defenders rushed to defensive turrets and cloaked artillery bunkers, their red-marked armor blinking through the dust clouds like fireflies in a storm. But the Alliance came in too fast, too angrily. Rowan led the assault, through trench lines, across shattered infrastructure, into the gut of a base meant to remain unseen. Every hallway was a lesson in cruelty. Data cores wired into living conduits, prisoners used as stabilization anchors, and command consoles coded in biometrics that no longer breathed. She found a transmission slate mid-fight. Played it. We hold until they silence. All who speak are erased. Draven, from orbit, watched the battle unfold in real time. Fractured heat maps, staggered biosigns, ships falling in silence one after another. She could see the cost, and the moment she realized her carrier group wouldn't survive without intervention. She opened a line to Rowan. "We need one of the base's heat sinks to go critical. Fast." Rowan looked at the slate, then at the reactor room behind her, flickering, unstable. "There's a team inside." Draven didn't reply. She didn't need to. 10 minutes later, the base's internal signature spiked. A vertical plume of light burst through the rocky crust of Val Core, punching skyward as the Coalition base detonated from within. Rowan stumbled out of the smoke with 3 survivors. The 4th, young, quiet, always smiling, had stayed behind to finish the override. She didn't say his name. Didn't have to. In orbit, Draven's fleet turned back the incoming reinforcement wing. The battle was won. The base was erased. But for both of them, the silence afterward was louder than anything else. The meeting room wasn't official, not marked, not recorded, just a steel-walled chamber aboard a drifting comms relay, orbiting nothing. That was how you had conversations that mattered. Vera Kale sat at one end of the table, posture controlled but tight. Her uniform was buttoned perfectly. Her eyes were not. Dravenlock stood near the far wall, arms crossed, jaw locked. A fresh line of dried blood streaked her coat. She hadn't changed. Rowan Vale leaned with one shoulder against the entryway, her armor scratched, one arm still in a temporary sling. She hadn't spoken since entering. On the table between them, a black case. Its seal read, "Ashfall Protocol Alpha Release." Vera spoke first. "They're preparing to authorize it." Rowan straightened. "Who? High Command, or what's left of it?" Draven stepped forward. "They want to launch it?" "They already approved the test run." Rowan blinked. "Where?" Vera didn't answer. The silence settled like smoke. Ashfall Protocol, a multi-vector strike plan targeting entire planetary systems under Coalition control. Military, industrial, civilian alike. It had existed in rumor for years. A bluff, people said, a deterrent. Now it was real. Draven exhaled slowly. "They want me to lead it." Rowan stared at her. "You're considering it." Draven didn't deny it. "I'm considering the math. How many lives it might end versus how many it might save by ending this war." Vera's voice was low. "You don't fight silence by becoming it." "No," Draven snapped, "but we're done fighting by asking." Rowan stepped forward, tension visible in her shoulders. "We just came back from a battlefield built on suffering. You think burning a world like that is strategy?" "I think," Draven said flatly, "that it's inevitable." Vera stood now, crossing to the case. She didn't open it, just placed a hand on top. "I leaked the Coalition's treaty. I took down 2 votes. I'm already on the brink of losing what little influence I have left, but I will not lose who we are." Draven looked away. Rowan spoke, voice quiet. "If you activate this, who decides what's necessary next time?" No one spoke. Then Draven stepped forward. She placed her hand on the case, looked Vera in the eye, then Rowan. No one. She turned and walked out. The sound of her boots faded. Rowan followed a moment later, leaving Vera alone in the room with the silence and the case that no one wanted to carry. The First World fell in 7 minutes. No declaration, no warning, no retreat. A remote system on the far edge of Coalition space, Mirankov, home to 7 million, half of them civilians. Once a minor industrial supply node, now a memory recorded in satellite telemetry and orbital decay patterns. Ashfall Protocol had been launched, but not by Draven, not by Vera, not by any official command. Cut to, aboard a rogue warfleet, a dozen blacked-out Alliance ships, no insignia, no IFF tags, appear from null space and deploy synchronized strikes on planetary infrastructure. Artificial quakes, airborne neurodisruptors, orbital melt cores. By the time local defense systems activate, the atmosphere is already burning. The rogue admiral transmits a single message to the Coalition. "You taught us to be quiet. Now listen to this." Cut to, the Alliance core worlds, broadcast uprising. The Coalition broadcasts footage within hours, edited, amplified, perfected, children running, hospitals burning, ash falling in sheets over ghost cities. Their voiceover is calm, clear, righteous. They claim to fight for freedom, But even now, they erase those who disagree. Who's next to burn? The effect is immediate. Neutral systems cut ties. Aid drops cease. Protests erupt on key Alliance worlds. Cut to Draven Locke aboard the Resolute. She watches it unfold from the bridge, a report scrolling across her console. Ashfall launched unauthorized. No command signature. Fleet response, hold. Alliance position fractured. Her hands rest on the console edge. She doesn't speak. She doesn't move. Cut to Vera Kale, within the Council Tower. Her name is shouted in chamber after chamber. Instigator, leak artist, unstable. Someone even says terrorist. But no one calls her wrong. Not out loud. Not after seeing the ashes. Cut to Rowan Vale, groundside on a blackened moon. She helps dig trenches for survivors who won't need them. The heat still rises from the soil. The air is heavy with the scent of melted alloy and old blood. In the distance, a child holds a gas mask like a doll. Rowan turns away before the camera in her helmet shuts off. A single coalition transmission loops across every channel, repeating every hour. They wanted silence. Instead, they gave us fire. We will not forget. The message arrived just before the last comm relay died, not through official channels, not military grade, just a wideband civilian distress pulse, raw, unfiltered, desperate. The world was called Siravel. Population 48,000. Terraform incomplete. No fleets, no weapons, just mining gear, comms towers, and a school carved into a canyon wall. The voice in the transmission was small, shaky. A child no older than 9. This is Siravel. We saw the lights. Something is coming. Our beacon's still on. We still have power. You said you'd protect us. Silence. Then you promised. The feed crackled, then cut. Cut to Alliance command, no action logged. Tactical response level below strategic priority. Fleet status occupied. Public response, no acknowledgement. No one sends help. No one even speaks the name. Cut to Vera Keel's office. She stands frozen, datapad still in hand, the child's voice echoing in her mind. Behind her, aides argue about optics, timing, votes. She doesn't hear them. She stares at a blank window filled with stars that feel infinitely far away. Cut to Draven Locke, alone on the Resolute. She listens to the message 3 times. She slams her fist into the wall hard enough to split her knuckles, but she doesn't call command, doesn't prep the fleet. She just sits and bleeds. Cut to Rowan Vale, Planetfall hangar. She sees the message, asks for launch clearance. She's denied. She walks back to the barracks and screams into her helmet where no one can hear her. Somewhere far away in the dark between systems, the stars flicker red, not from fire, from watching and waiting.